I'm Bianca Spears. Welcome to another amazing episode of Explore, where we dive into the lives and the hows and the exact methods and strategies of those who have the results that we're looking for in life. Some famous, some everyday people. And today I am so honoured to have Clare Coffield here with me. Clare, thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome, Bianca. Happy to be here.
Now, Clare is, we met a couple of years ago. Clare was a coaching client of mine, but she's someone who I just fell in love with really quickly because she is the queen of resilience. She's a coach herself. She's also an author and recently co-authored the book In the Spirit of Bliss, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later. And she's a real inspiration to me because she's been through a lot in her years, including a stroke, which we're going to go into, and just comes through time and time again. You always go through these dips, Clare, and I've seen it in the few years we've known each other, and you've told me about things in the past and through the dips and back out the other side. And that's what we're going to be speaking about today, because resilience is something that can help all of us in our lives. And Clare and I were just chatting about this offline, saying that it's something that can really help us not only in the most deep, dark, adverse times of our lives, but also in the day-to-day. It's something really important and a skill that we're going to learn more about how to build through our chat with Clare today. So, Clare, would you like to share with us perhaps even the story of where you've come from and your stroke and what's got you to where you are today? That's a bit of an intro.
How much time have you got, Bianca?
One so that we can get into some detail.
Okay, all right, because you know what I'm like, I can talk for the Olympics, you know. I think for me, to share with other people the power of language, no matter what situation we're in, but certainly for me, since my stroke, which was about 4 years ago now, the language that I use about myself, to myself, and the language that I accept or reject from other people. So what I mean by that is I don't call myself a stroke victim, poor me. I don't call myself that. I'm a strokey. It's just one of the things that I've been through, but I didn't want the stroke to be my defining moments for the rest of my life. It's, you know, that whole victim thing is so destructive. And I really believe very strongly that the language that I use about it then projects to other people how they can help me. Because if I'm a miserable so-and-so, quite honestly, it pushes people away. And I have been there. And I can see that people shy away. But when you don't have to be crazy happy. You just have to be open to talking to people about them. I don't want to talk about the stroke all the time, you know, but it's being interested in other people, which I've always been. That's not difficult. But when people talk about resilience, there's a lot of talking about bouncing back. And after my stroke, I thought, I don't want to bounce back, thank you very much. Because bouncing back to me means going back to just before the stroke. So what's going to happen? You're going to have a stroke. I don't want to go there, thank you. Certainly not going to have one of them again if I can avoid it. So that kind of terminology that is used a lot in the medical profession, and you'll bounce back, you'll you know,
normal.
Sorry?
You'll go back to normal.
Oh, normal. What's normal? There is no normal. I mean, there never has been, but there's no going back to who I was or what I was before. because having a brain bleed stroke, and that's the only kind I can talk about because that's the only one I've had, it completely changes you. You can't have something going on literally in your brain that goes kapow, you know, and you know, hemorrhaging in your brain and be the same afterwards. It's just not, that's not reasonable. It's not possible.
So take us to where you were before the stroke then, like paint the picture for us of where your life was at and what was going on in the moments that led up to the stroke, because that's
okay.
As well.
Okay, so I came to Australia in 2011. So I emigrated then to be with my son and his wife and the little family who are just fantastic. And that was a big step for me. I was in my mid-50s, I think. I had my own home back in the UK. I had my own business in coaching and training and management and leadership. And I was doing well, working with the local council. I had loads of work. And I thought, well, that's fine. You know, I'm earning money and I'm doing what I love to do. But there's no one around me. My family are in Australia, literally at the other end of the world. So I decided that really what I wanted to do was be with them. So that took 2.5 years to get all the certificates and visas and blah, blah, blah. But that was a great lead up to me being in Australia because it made me value the time with the people that I knew I was going to be leaving, if you know what I mean, you know, the friends and neighbours and so on. So came here in 2011, and now you think, oh, you just take your business with you. Now, I was well known in the northeast of England. Come to Australia, who's Clare Coffield? Nobody. Oh my goodness. So it took me a while to build my business back up again. In leadership and management training, I worked with AIM, the Australian Institute of Management, and that was tremendous. That was great work. I got loads of work with them, and a couple of other training organisations as well. I didn't do a lot of coaching then because I wanted to earn some money in something that was easy to get into, if you know what I mean. So I did the training, you know, running training courses, which I love to do. So that was all jogging along quite nicely. And then I thought, leading up to the evening when I had the stroke, which was the 21st of October 2015, that's kind of imprinted on my psyche. So I was in my friend's house, Nikki Ellis, who's a fabulous woman here. So she provided me with her lounge room and drinks and nibbles and all sorts of things. And this was my launching my coaching side of my business. And I'd gathered together a good amount of potential clients, and Nikki invited some of her friends as well. So we filled her lounge room. So I was very excited. I was so enthusiastic that this was it after the couple of years of trying to get myself together in Australia. This was it, launching my coaching business. So at one point, and you know, I'm talking about goal setting, and actually I'd done a course, I've done loads of courses with Authentic Education in Sydney, fabulous organisation, and they'd just been talking about the brain and all the gateways in the brain. Amazing. So I'd literally just done that course, I think maybe in the August, and this was October. So I was wanting to share that, what I'd learned, to help people understand the pathways that we can use to make changes and achieve our goals. So I'm yattering on about this, and all of a sudden I forgot where I was. Now I'd rehearsed my talk. I'm, you know, pretty good at having it all done my homework, as it were. But I did give my notes to her daughter, who was sitting in the front row with a clipboard for me. And at one point I thought, oh, I need to check where I am. I've completely lost my place, and I couldn't get it back. And before I knew it, I was turning around showing them slides, and then before I knew it, I couldn't turn around. My right leg was literally stuck to the floor, and I thought, oh, that's a bit strange. Now, luckily for me, in the audience was my daughter-in-law, who's a doctor. So she saw my difficulty and just kind of stood up and said, Claire, I think you should sit down. And I said, no, I'm fine. We're nearly finished. I'm fine. I'll just carry on. And she said, no, I'm phoning an ambulance. So the room kind of went, oh, and I thought, what's she talking about? So she saw the paralysis in my leg. And as soon as I sat down, the whole of my right side just collapsed. So it was very, very quick, very quick. So before I knew it, whoosh, in the ambulance, off to hospital. New clients, I don't think so. It certainly made an impression, but not really the one that I'd anticipated. So got to the hospital, was there for about 2.5 months, 3 months.
Wow.
Just dynamic. I mean, what big words can you use? It was like someone had just pulled the carpet from under me, literally. And everything that I thought was happening in my life just went out the window. It was gone.
Yeah.
That was shocking and terrifying, and absolutely could not understand it, because I'm someone who, if I understand something, I can deal with it better. And I'm lying there stuck in a hospital bed because I couldn't get out of it, thinking, well, my diet's pretty good. I exercise. I have been doing all the kind of healthy stuff, juicing and, coaching, being coached. And I thought, what on earth is this about? Now, there is no explanation. It's one of these life events that you just have to put your hands up and say, this is what I got. Now, you can go into victim mode and say, that's not fair. Or you can say, oh, what am I going to do about it? Up here, what can I deal with that's going to make me feel better, so that I've got the courage to, yes, I was in fighting mode, definitely. I was angry. I was in what I call, now I wrote it down, what was it called? Survival euphoria. That's what I was in, because it was, oh my God, I survived, I didn't die. Because the doctors had told my son that night, she may not pull through this. This could be it. Now I choke up when I even think about that, because I'm thinking, that must have been awful for him to hear that. He thought I was out with his wife. I was doing my talk. He was watching the babies. Perfect, and a good thing to be doing. And the next thing he knows, he's got a call from his wife saying, your mum's in hospital, she's had a stroke. So that must have been absolutely terrible for him. So where am I? Yes. So
you were in Euphoria, but you also said that you were angry.
But the emotions were completely mixed up. The euphoria came from, yes, I've survived, and the doctor here in the hospital has said, it'll take about a year to get better. And I thought, a year? I can do a year. A year? Now, this is what I think I heard. Now, my daughter-in-law was with me, and she says, that's not quite what they said. I heard what I wanted to hear. Yeah, which was a year and you'll be tickety-boo, Probably not what they said. But I had that in my head, a year, I can get there, I can do all the exercises, I can change my diet, I can, take the medication for hypertension, blah, 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 do it all. And I was absolutely rocking and rolling. Then I got to 11 months And I thought, there's only a month to go and I'll be fixed. And I looked at my body and I thought, I don't think so. So that's when the depression kicked in for the first time. So I was fine. I didn't need help with that up until then because I was going to be fixed in a year. Hey, very good. So that was a big, big shock. That was a big shock.
And so take us through where had you got to in 11 months? What had you achieved as far as recovery goes?
Okay, I was using a walking frame, or as I call it, my four-wheel drive.
And you've been told that you wouldn't walk again, right?
No, that just wasn't possible. But I could get around with this frame, and eventually I might be able to use a stick, but not yet. We'll need to just wait and see how it goes. Wait and see is a great medical term for we haven't got a clue. We don't know. We don't know. And they don't know because every case is individual and unique. But we expect doctors to have all the answers, and that's really not realistic. So I was out walking about and going to my son's for tea and being able to babysit after a few months, quite a few months. So things were gradually getting better. I was by no means was I fixed. I had no idea about could I ever get back to work or whatever. And then I saw Sandy Foster is a New Zealand coach who is fantastic. So I'd done some courses with her, and I saw she sent me an email saying that she was writing a book and she was looking for contributions. And I thought, I'm going to give that a try. So that's how we got the chapter in her books, In the Spirit of Bliss. So it's all about resilience and what's it called? Resilience through adversity. So that was fabulous. Having my chapter accepted and being in print, I thought, wow, I've never published anything before. That is just incredible. So that gave me a real lift. So I also started writing my own book, whose title I've changed several times, so I'll not even bother trying to remember what we're at now. I haven't finished it because I don't have an excuse. I don't need any excuse. I've written about 20,000 words, and that's my next big thing to get done, get that published. I've got a publisher. I've got it all waiting in the wings. Do you know something? I've just got to do the work, which is funny. So I was jogging along really quite well, but not having a pathway, a path to go forward with. And I thought, well, I need some company, so I better get on a dating site and see if there's any decent men out there. And it's difficult. Now, do I tell them I'm disabled or do I not? Should they like me for me? All of that. So great angst over that. And eventually I thought, oh, damn it. If anybody just says, yes, I'll meet up for a coffee, he's in, you know. So I met this guy for coffee a couple of times. And then we went out to the cinema and we'd had a glass of wine and it was very jolly. It was nice. We saw a film. We came out of the film and I was crossing the roads. Now, I had my walking stick that night, so I must have been quite a bit better. But as I crossed the road, my right ankle just turns and I broke my, my small toe. Now, just by walking across the road, I didn't have a big fall or anything like that. So I ended up in hospital again, and they put on one of these big moon boot things, which I absolutely hated. All that Velcro, because I kept doing the Velcro on the wrong bits. I was so fed up with that. So I had about 2 months in the moon boots, and my mood just went boom, 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 boom. What have I done all that work for since the stroke, when I can't get out again? I'm stuck in the house again. So my emotions, it was like, I've done all this work, I was really positive, and look what's happened. It's all been a waste of time. So that was not a good place. So I went on antidepressants then, and my doctor said, no, there's nothing else we can offer you. You're just not lifting up at all. So until February of this year, I was up and down, not seeing how I was going to get out of that. And then I said to my doctor, you seem to be increasing my dose each time I see you, and we're getting towards the maximum per day, and I'm feeling nothing. I'm not a zombie, but I'm flat. I don't have any emotions. And I said, I don't want to be like this. How do I get off these safely? So the recommended way is to decrease them gradually over quite a few weeks, which is what I did. So by the end of February this year, I've been off them altogether. And guess what? I feel a lot better. Yes, no, that has been a marvelous step. That's been tremendous. So I've improved greatly. I mean, obviously I needed the tablets at the time, but I didn't need to be on them consistently. Anyway, so got through that bit. Feeling a lot better. And then a big decision just about 3 weeks ago, I got a kitten. Now, had I known this 4 years ago, I could just have cut to the chase and got myself a kitten back then. I didn't think of it. I've never had an animal. Now, this little guy, Mr. Snuggles, is actually sleeping on top of my desk at the moment beside me. Wherever I am, he wants to be there. Oh, he is just totally adorable. He's only 4 months old, and he's just the best little companion ever. And he's a house cat, so I don't need to worry about him running outside. It's great. So that is, for me, that's been a real changer in my moods. And so it's always, for me, it's always a combination of things. It's not only getting a cat, it's also coming off the antidepressants. So it's always a combination of things. It's getting out and meeting other people. Now, some people love joining groups of similar people. That's not my thing. I did not want to join a group of stroke victims. I tried it, and their mood was about comparing what medication they're on, right? And I thought, no, thank you. I don't want to go and talk about all that negative stuff. I'm dealing with that. I want to play chess. Now, try finding a chess club is difficult, but I need to play chess because my 6-year-old is beating me.
Your granddaughter.
So Heather, and the older one, Ilsa, who's 11, she won't play with me anymore because I'm too slow. And even the little one says to me when we're playing, I've got my hand on a piece about to move it, and Heather, excuse me, Heather says to me, oh, Grandma, I wouldn't do that if I were you. So there's a lot of laughs there. So what else?
So let's dive into, you've touched on a few things there. So starting with what you've just spoken about getting a cat, like, and we were speaking offline also about a similar thing of companionship and having that, and that being a really vital part of resilience and working through something.
Yes.
And you shared with me a story about a man that you met when you were in the hospital, and you were saying that you now meet him. You've met him every Thursday, basically, since you guys were in the hospital like 3.5, 4 years ago.
That's right. So that's been tremendous. His name is Sean, and the first time I met him, we were both in the excuse me, remedial pool in the Austin hospital, and I see this guy at the other end of the pool, and he's swimming with one arm, right? There's only one arm coming out. What? So that kind of caught my attention, and that got us talking because we had to be driven there. So we started talking in the car, and that, I thought, gosh, this guy's really interesting. How's he doing that? What's getting him to do that? So we started meeting every Thursday since then. And there's something about keeping in touch with someone who doesn't want to talk it to death, but who absolutely understands where we've both been through. It's not just about me, it's about him as well. So we're both interested in the progress that the other one's making and what films we've seen. And sometimes we go to a film together. And what books have we read, or what's his cat doing? He's got a cat and he's got a partner, and he's going through all sorts of difficulties with movements with his arm and his leg. And we don't, as I say, we don't dwell on that, but it's part of the conversation. It's in there with films and books and what's on TV and, all sorts of things. So to me, that's a kind of balanced discussion or talk or meeting that we can have. And that's, I feel that we've helped each other. I think it's been a dual benefit, definitely. So I've loved meeting Sean. He just feels like an all-time friend,
Yeah.
So I think where you're safe.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't feel safe in the group of grouchers, of the worrywarts. I didn't feel safe there. It wasn't the right, I mean, your gut just tells you whether you're with the right people or not. So not feeling obliged to go to particular things, having that choice of saying, no, that doesn't do me any good, I'll find something else. So always being my own motivator, as it were, to find the right things that help me feel good, help me feel hopeful. So
I know that's been a big key for you at times as well, because I've been in your life for part of this journey, and there's been times, and I think for those of you watching or listening, Claire's kind of breezed through her story, but being in hospital for months on end, not being able to move in a bed, being depressed and not knowing what to do or what way out, or not wanting to get up in the mornings, that's not, I mean, Claire's kind of breezed through these things for the sake of time, but really they're not nice situations to be in at all, and they're not easy situations to move through or get out of. And I know one of the things that you said to me one time was that you were just focusing on building that positive energy, which is something that we've worked on in the program that you did with me, the Leading From Within program, and you really seemed to find a turning point with that at one stage where you're like, I can just choose whatever I want to makes me happy.
And that's so simple, isn't it? I think it's, I don't know, how have I come to this age and not realised that was my choice, But finally, I have realised that I'm the director of this movie of mine, and it's totally up to me. Now you can either see that as a burden or a gift, and I think it's a fabulous gift. I think it's tremendous. And I think my dalliance in not getting to this point sooner has got something to do with my Catholic upbringing in the 1950s in the UK, where just do as you're told. Do not think for yourself. Do as you're told. And if you don't do as you're told, you get punished. Well, that for me was a nightmare because I needed to know why. I was always asking why. I remember at school getting into real trouble because it was a Catholic school, obviously, run by nuns who terrified me, apart from a couple of them. I remember asking in the religion class, please, miss, can I have a female guardian angel? Because guardian angels are male. And I said, I'd rather have a female one. Oh, 10 of the belts for that. You know, sit in your seat, and how dare you question that the way it is isn't perfect. So, I mean, either you succumb to that or you say, well, I'm not having this.
Yeah.
But it was, so that is an extreme background, which it's taken me all these years to grow out of. Now, don't get me wrong, there were good things about my growing up time, but that didn't sit with me very well at all. So that maybe explains a little bit why it's taken me so long to get to the point of being in charge here, you know. But it's never too late.
I think it's normal, and I totally agree. It's never too late. You're never too old. You're never too young to do anything. And what was I going to say there? I think it's very common for people in any situation, in any Western culture, to be guided by parents, by teachers, by media, by whatever, and believe that there is a certain path that they must walk, things that they must do in their lives, and not be brought up to believe or understand that they can actually choose whatever the hell they want. And even if they're in a shit situation, they have chosen that. They have chosen their way there through the relationships that they've formed, or the jobs that they've taken or not taken, or whatever it is, whatever choices they've made have got them there. So I don't think it's a bad reflection on you or anything, like you're saying, oh, I've taken so long to get there. You've got there. At least you've got there.
No, and that's where I'm grateful that I did survive, so that I could have some more time to learn this, you know. Now, I made some notes earlier, and I think you might be interested in this little bit. 20 years ago, I went through a second divorce when my husband left me.
Oh, you've just hit mute there, Claire, on your microphone. Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry. So my second husband left me 20 years ago, and I allowed it to break me completely. I didn't have the coaching toolkits that I have now. So, but comparing the two things, you would think, well, obviously the stroke's a lot worse. No, it's not. In my estimation, being broken by the emotional situation of my husband leaving had a far deeper negative effect on me than the stroke. Now, that might seem crazy, but in those 20 years, I've become a coach, I'm coached, I'm a coachee, I'm a client, and the whole mindset in coaching has absolutely liberated my emotions. So I feel quite sorry for the Claire 20 years ago who hadn't a clue how to deal with that divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where to start. I was completely broken, whereas I'm not completely broken going through the stroke. So to me, that's very encouraging that, I mean, obviously I wish I'd known then what I know now, but you can't get that. It's encouraging to me that anyone who's feeling, that's it, my life's over, it's finished, I can't live without him, without her, without that big house, you know, whatever, you make it true or you make it not true. You get to choose. And yes, of course, you've got to go through a healing time. And after that, you can say, I've had enough of that now. What is next for me? What am I going to make in my life next? And that to me is the most fantastic liberation through coaching. It just is. And it's not someone telling you what to do. It's someone helping you through whatever it is you're going through and helping you uncover the best things for you. You mean, Bianca, you've been my coach. You've never said, now, Claire, here's a list of 10 things you do. I mean, you wouldn't have seen me for dust. That'd be me back at school. So you're coaching, and you know, I was coached by Reagan Hillier as well before that. And various other people, Sandy Foster, and you know, it's just been, I mean, it's like a veil being lifted on a world that I didn't even know existed. It's fabulous. So I just wanted to tell you.
What would you say now for people who are in perhaps a time of adversity where it's, you know, they're going through a rough patch in a relationship, or they're going through, you know, they've lost a job, or they've become severely injured, or something dramatic, whether it's dramatic or not, like what would be your keys to step by step to move forward? Because you've mentioned language, you've mentioned a grief period. How would you piece that all together in a step-by-step system, if you will, for people who are in that darker kind of space?
Okay. I thought about this earlier this morning, and I think the first step I would think is accepting what is going on now. Now, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to submit to it, but really seeing it clearly, taking off the rose-tinted glasses about how you would rather it was, but seeing in the cold light of day, this is what's happening. I've lost my job, lost my house, my partner's left me. Right, let's just try and take the emotion out of it. Now that's very, very hard. But if we can get in a format that is realistic, I think then you can start to move forwards. But moving into a great plan of things before you've really examined where you are, I think is a mistake, because you're ignoring the fact that yes, you're in pain, that yes, you have regrets, yes, you're depressed, yes, you want to sleep all day. Right, that's the way it is at the moment. I think adding at the moment, which is saying it's not going to be forever. And in this snapshot of time, at the moment, it's shit. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work through that. I'll accept it, I'll work through it. And then once I get to the stage of saying, well, how can my life be better than this? What is it that I need? What do I need? Now, what I've needed recently is to get my health absolutely tip-top. So that was the steps of coming off the antidepressants, getting back to juicing, because I'm on and off juicing, right? But when I get back to juicing, off the medication, then I can start to feel, you know, and going to the gym. I mean, I'm going later this afternoon. I've got a fabulous personal trainer who's doesn't take any nonsense from me. He makes me work hard. So where was I? So it's, I think getting my health tip top has absolutely got to be first. And I remember decades ago when I was working in local governments and I was head of department and all of that and earning good money and all of that. And I'd be sitting at my desk with a Mars bar and a packet of crisps, and if I was lucky, a cheese sandwich, and that was my lunch. And I wouldn't take a break. I wouldn't go and walk outside. What? Far too busy for that, you know. So I had never looked after my health properly. I thought my driver was the job I was in, what I was earning, was I going up the ladder in the organisation that I was in, and that was my raison d'etre. It wasn't how am I feeling, and I was feeling awful. No wonder, because I wasn't going to the gym, I wasn't eating properly. I would go home and have a couple of gin and tonics. You know, that was the way to start the evening, just to try and cut off the awful day that had been in the office, and just have a couple of drinks and right, okay, now I can start the evening. Now, in the second marriage, we did sit down at the kitchen table and have a two-way talk about how was your day, da, 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 da. So that was good. That was a good bit. But the overall picture was not healthy, not at all. So these days I'm saying, what is healthy for me? That's my starting point to the day. And then
like all levels, right? Like physically, mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely. And you know, I went back to bed with a cup of tea this morning and made a list of all the people I want to contact, like my brother who's in Spain at the moment, and my sister, and because I want to tell them about my kitten. You know, so I made this. So that's my list these days of who do I want to contact that isn't round the corner that I can have a cup of coffee with. This is a very different life of, it's about health, nutrition, company, family. Oh gosh, family. My little granddaughters are just fabulous. And that is a big motivation for me. I want to be here to see them grow up. I want to see what they're doing now. I mean, my goodness, at 6 and 11, they're doing amazing things. And they're happy little kids. I mean, they're cheeky as well, of course. But I want to see all of that. I want to be part of it. And to be able to be healthy enough to be part of all that life is, I have got to put myself first. Really for the first time in my life, really. So yeah. I think that's a good start to the day.
Yeah. So starting from the rock bottom for anyone who may be there or maybe they're in the future and may remember watching or listening to this, getting to a point of being real with where everything's at, feeling the feelings, thinking the thoughts, and going, okay, this is how it is right now at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Claire's recommended thing, at the moment. Yes. At the moment, it's like this. So then working through that and going, what do I need, right? Being realistic, what do I need? And then getting to a point of prioritizing what's important for you. Well, my health is important. My family is important, right? Connecting with people is important, and prioritizing those things to be able to move forward. And then getting into the space like Claire and I were talking about before, where it's like, what would I love? Mm-hmm. That's what's going to give you what you love in life. And like Claire was just saying, you know, you think it's about the job, the money, the rank, those kinds of things. And when, you know, when you're at the end of your life, or when you're lying in hospital wishing that you could be out doing something. It's not out climbing the corporate ladder. It's being with loved ones. It's, you know, going for a run or going to the gym or moving your body and those kinds of basic things that we all want as humans. It's, you know, if we didn't have to earn money, we would live in a very different way. So super, super, super cool points there.
Can I just add to that little bit that
yes.
For quite a few years now, I've been really keen on the law of attraction and how the universe can help us. And amazingly, I mean, when I left the UK, I hadn't sold my house. And I thought, crikey, you know, I thought it would have been done and dusted and money in the bank. So I had to come here and rent it out and blah, 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 still have it on the market. And that was quite a worry. I didn't know what was going to happen because it was deteriorating. The tenants were not looking after it particularly well. And then there was a slump in house prices and I thought, oh, crikey, okay. Now, if I'd got what I wanted at that time, I would have got some money that I would then have blown, right? Coming to Australia, oh, great, you know, what am I going to spend all this money on? Whereas I didn't sell the house until a couple of months only before the stroke. Now, to me, that is something, I don't know, is it God, is it the universe? I have no idea. But whatever it is, it keeps kicking in. There are times when I think, I know what's best for me, but actually it doesn't work out. And then it becomes apparent that actually when I needed the money was when I had the stroke, because I wasn't going to be able to work. So the money from the house has actually kept me going. Obviously, I've got advice to invest it and so on. Whereas I would have had it in my pocket and spent it by the time I'd had the stroke. Do you see what I mean? And I couldn't. How could you possibly anticipate that? So I don't worry about money ever. And I'm not working. You know. Do you know what I mean? It's incredible. That gives me a lot of strength. That yes, I'm willing to take full responsibility for my life. But there is something out there that's helping me.
So Claire, I wanted to loop back around to something you said very, very early in the episode, because it is one of the big reasons that I invited you onto the show and something I really wanted to talk about, and I'm glad I've remembered it before the end, is language. Now, you touched on that at the very beginning, and it's something that I found most fascinating about your story. Take us into when you were in hospital, when you know, parts of your body weren't working, especially your leg, and what process you went through, not only within yourself with the language that you were using, but what you were asking other people to use, because I think this is vital for people who are in particular situations and to understand the power that it has.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought us back around to that one, because it's very clear to me. I mean, I can take myself back to that time in hospital very easily. And don't get me wrong, the staff are marvellous. They're great. So I'm not putting any damper on that at all. You couldn't ask for better. The language that some of them used, I thought was quite detrimental to my recovery. Now, they're not doing it deliberately. That's just the training they've had. So the image I've got in my head
of the things that they would say.
Yes, so I was getting some physio, and they showed me a set of stairs that they're going to work through with me. How could I climb a set of stairs? And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. But anyway, what this lady said to me was, so you're taking a step up to heaven or taking a step down to hell. So up was heaven and down was hell. And I thought, no, I'm not doing this. So I kind of went, excuse me, that language really doesn't help me. It doesn't work for me. And her face was a picture, I'll tell you. Obviously, nobody had ever challenged her on this.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that really doesn't help me. Stepping down to hell or up to heaven, that's not helpful to me. And I felt wonderful inside, because why should I accept that language? Now, it might not affect other people, but with my background, it was like another big slap. Do you know what I mean? Another big emotional slap. And I thought, so I resisted her using that language. And I felt great once I'd done it. They would also talk about me as a stroke victim.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I don't feel like a victim. This thing's happened, okay, to me, but I don't want to be called a victim. Thank you. Now, there were other instances of that which I've now forgotten, but they're in the book. They're in the chapter in the book. But
yeah, I mean, there's even little examples that you've shared with me, and I've seen this with my grandpa being in and out of nursing home hospital for on and off for the last 2 years. And sometimes I see the way that the whatever it is, the nursing home staff or the doctors in the hospital or the nurses or whoever it is, speak to him, and I'm like, he's not, mentally gone. He's not a 5-year-old child. He's not, you don't need to speak to him like that. But even in a basic, simple example that you gave that I think is so illustrative of the way that medical professionals just speak, and they're not thinking about how detrimental it may be, is simply calling your leg your bad leg.
oh yes, right? Oh yes.
Saying, oh, try to move your bad leg, right?
Oh, I remember now.
And I think it's great what you did, which you please share what you asked them to call it.
Well, I'd forgotten that little bit. So they would only call it my bad leg. So I had a good leg and a bad leg. Really? Right. So what has this right leg done wrong to be called a bad leg? Exactly. So they kept calling it my bad leg. And I thought, no, I'm really not having this. I've got one leg that works perfectly well, and the other leg has become my learning leg. So I'm explaining this to a staff member in the hospital, and she's kind of going, oh, this Scottish woman's crazy. And I thought, I do not care. I do not have a naughty bad leg. I have a leg that needs to relearn how to walk. So would you give it a break, please, if you know what I mean? But that was massive for me to be able to speak up and say, I actually don't have a bad leg. I've got a learning leg. And whether that was the best expression, it didn't matter. As long as we weren't calling it my bad leg, I didn't care. I wasn't savvy enough to know, well, maybe that's the most exact expression to use, but as long as we're not using bad and good leg, that'll do. But that was you're absolutely right. That was the biggest breakthrough for me. Now whether they were away writing in the notes, difficult Scottish woman, I don't care.
It doesn't matter, because I think the language that's used, and I've spoken about this in another interview on this very show with a medical doctor who doesn't practice as a doctor anymore, about the language that we use in medical situations and about the way that they talk about things or the way that they diagnose things. Like, Claire, you're never going to walk again. Yeah. If you are to take that on mentally, you will take it on physically as well. Yes. And that is why it's so detrimental. And I don't think this is taught enough in the medical industry. Doctors are very, I know what's best and I know how to do it, and you shut up sometimes. I'm not saying all of them, yes. But it is very difficult, let's say, in a lot of situations to express what you as the patient really, really want.
Yeah.
In their environment, let's say it's their environment because they work there every day. But I think it's so important, and knowing what I know now, which I'm learning more and more about all the time, is the power of our thoughts, and our words are just verbal thoughts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But our thoughts can change molecules. They can change cells. They can change molecules. They can change everything because everything is energy,
Yeah.
right? So we're changing the molecular structure of things with our thoughts, which our words are just, again, spoken thoughts. It's very freaking important, the words that we use. It's super, it's almost everything, because we can either have massive detriment where we can render something completely useless, like a leg, for the rest of our lives, or we can call it a learning leg, and we can allow it to learn, and we can allow it to heal and grow and, regain strength. And I just think that's so important, and one of the most inspirational things that I took away from your story, and the work that you do. I just think it's very, very important for people to take that on board.
And Scottish comment, and it's free. It's free. There's no charge.
It is. It is free. And these guys on the line who are listening, like, this is not just for injury. This is for everything. If you're going out there every day saying things like, well, life's a bitch and then you die, or you're saying, Mondays are the worst days ever, guess what you're going to be creating? Not only through the molecular structure, but also through your actions and the choices that you're making that day. You're probably going to choose to go to the shit coffee shop instead of the nice one, because you're proving that Mondays suck and they're the worst day ever. You're going to prove that.
Yes. Do you know, you're just reminding me, look, these little flashes of memory are coming into my mind. Very early on, being in hospital, there was a common room where, they would have one TV and all the chairs set out and spaces for wheelchairs, so we would get wheeled in, and there was a guy in there, and boy was he angry. Now, he was in a wheelchair, don't know what had happened to him, but he was shouting, "You bastard leg." That was his own leg. And he was thumping it with his hands. "You bastard leg." And I found that terrifying. Very newly being in hospital, I thought, crikey, is this what I've got to look forward to? Because I didn't know what the process was. And I thought, well, I'm wondering, not that I ever kept in touch with him, but I wonder, well, how did he fare? How did he do it as the time went on? If that was his demeanour, his language to his leg, calling it a bastard, my God. And there was another one that just popped into my head and then popped right back out again. It'll come back to me. So what you're saying about language can be so helpful in one way and so detrimental if you go the wrong roads. And if people need to realise that we do have a choice. There's no one saying to that man, that's what you've got to call your leg. I mean, God help him, he must have been in some emotional and psychological mess to be so extreme in his language to himself. And, oh yeah, I've just remembered what the other thing was. So having no knowledge of stroke, never met anyone, right? So I was the first, as it were, in my own experience. And I kept seeing people in hospital that had part of their leg amputated. Right? Now, what I didn't know and wasn't brave enough to ask was, are they a stroke patient? Is that the next step for me? So I was going to bed at night thinking, am I going to actually lose part of my leg? Now, that person was in for something completely different, but we're all just lumped into the same ward. I didn't know that. So I was observing what was going on round about me, thinking, this ward is only for stroke people. And I was anticipating that, oh my God, am I going to lose bits of my limbs now? I was terrified. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to think to tell me this is a mixed ward.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to go into that. I mean, I went off on this spiral of negative thinking and fear, terrible fear that what I was seeing round about me was going to be the next step for me. So how you get around that one, I'm not sure. But I did ask. I did eventually ask. And I was told, oh, no, don't be so silly. No, that's not going to happen to you. They've got a completely different condition. All right. Well, I'm sorry I've waited 2 months to ask that one.
Yeah.
I was terrified to ask. I didn't want to hear them saying, yeah, let's just get it in the diary for your amputation, So can't make it up, really, can you? No. Anyway, that was the other little story from the hospital that I wanted to share with you.
So I think it comes down to what you've been saying, that you get to choose. Like, even if they told you, just as they told you you're not going to walk, right? Even if they told you you are going to have your leg amputated, finding the strength within yourself to decide your own path, to decide what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And what you're going to create with your life. So super, super important. Claire, now I know the Spirit of Bliss is only available through the authors who've written and contributed to it. So tell us how we can get a copy of that. I have mine in the post. Thank you.
Yes, you have. It should be arriving any minute. Now, people could email me and I can post it out to them.
Yeah, sure.
So have a look on the website, but emailing me is probably the simplest.
Yeah.
I can just post it out. Website is www.clarityinyourlife.com. So that's CLARITY inyourlife.com, all lowercase. Email is Claire without an I, no I's, Claire.Coffield, COFFIELD, at gmail.com, nice and simple.
As I said to you off air at the beginning, Claire, we do end every single episode with some laughter. And as I said off air as well, I often do just make up, it becomes apparent to me what we should laugh about throughout our conversation. And I think what's most appropriate, I really love using laughter within my laughter sessions and within my work to create a different emotion connected to what might be perceived as a negative experience or a negative memory. And when you were speaking about the moon boot and how frustrating Velcro was before, I thought, this is the thing. Create new neurological pathways, as you know, by teaming something like laughter with what's perceived as a negative experience. So what we're going to do in this laughter exercise is we're going to put our moon boot on. We're going to realize that the Velcro is not matching up. We're going to be frustrated, but we're going to be laughing. And we're going to go through that process. Okay, so strapping the boot on, we're going to start laughing.
Oh dear. Oh, the straps are on the wrong way. Oh dear. Oh, I'm going to so enjoy setting fire to this thing when this 2 months are over.
Clare Coffield, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been amazing chatting to you.
You're more than welcome. I always love talking with you, Bianca. Thank you so much for all your time and all your encouragement over the years, and just you being you. You're tremendous. Thank you so much, Bianca.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Claire. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.